We just need to make sure we upload till we get a final solution. A final solution. A final solution? Talked a lot about it in prison.
Oh, sorry. Talking myself.
Guys, we're always talking about the final solution.
And when they went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread, do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people.
Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. And we're already degraded.
That was fast.
That was fast. All right. Well, our plan is to just roll through this. We are working on the internet. We are going to do our very best to have this figured out as soon as possible. But in the meantime, we're just going to record and upload and you can enjoy. And the truth is, the vast majority of our listeners are listening later in the day.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, we get our, you guys that join us live. We love you guys. And which nobody's joined us yet. Oh,
there we go.
Mataizo. Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, Pony Boy.
Oh, Pony Boy. He's here. Great.
Everybody's filing in.
Everybody's filing in. Fun.
Do the truffle shuffle.
The truffle shuffle. Oh my gosh. There was
it doesn't take much to trigger you.
I was just, as I'm doing my show research, I ran across a random video where they were doing like charades, where you have to read a word, and it was the word puff, and the person was trying to get someone else to say the word puff, and they go blank the magic dragon, and the other person was like, ride the magic dragon, kill the magic dragon. They're like, no, like,
play the magic dragon.
See, they're like singing the whole song, and the person's like, what are you talking about? And at the end, they're like, pump the magic dragon. They're like, what's that? I had no idea. I was like, have we come that far?
It's
magic dragon
Taylor,
for me.
It's probably the citizenships test.
It's the citizenship test.
Yeah, if you don't know Puff, you're out.
If you don't know Puff the Magic Dragon, you're out of here. I might have failed the citizenship test because I've never watched It's a Wonderful Life around Christmas time. Oh, no. I'm being told I'm a bad American for not having watched it.
Every time a bell rings.
That there is no problem too large for government to solve.
Capitalism in that show.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so Mandami, he won last night. Zorhan for the win. His campaign event got hacked, by the way, and they put up a Trump is still your president sign on his big banner for about 15 seconds. Anyways, Mandami won, and just so you know, we are going to see the opposite of the Reagan Revolution.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
Boy.
All right, they're in. They're coming for the wetland in your backyard.
Oh, boy.
There's no issue too big for us to solve and no issue too small for us to care about.
Gosh. It's going to be trickle up economics.
Yeah. So one of my dear friends over in Kentucky, her husband got caught in this shelter in place order from this plane crash in Kentucky. Did you hear about this yesterday?
No, nothing.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know a plane went down.
A UPS plane just crashed. Here's some dash cam footage from a delivery driver. Take a look at this.
Oh, snap. Is that real?
They shut down 5 square miles, stay in place, shelter in place order. Totally real. You've got all kinds of footage of this thing, right? Like, totally wild. Right. Whoa. And then here's. Bro, get the fuck away from here. Like, bro, no, hold on. There's another shot of it. Here's the plane. It shortly after takeoff, and then it like did a little
Stalled
double
out
back
or
thing and
something,
just absolutely wild. Look at that. Crazy.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's like a full load of jet fuel. Oh,
It did
geez.
32,000 pounds of jet fuel.
Ugh.
Now, we got to see a lot of images of what a plane crash looks right as it's coming down.
Mhm.
I just want to remind people on what they tried to tell us 9/11 looked like at the Pentagon.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Just for comparison. You just saw a plane and exactly what it looks like in a similar situation. Okay. This is the surveillance footage outside of the Pentagon on 9/11. Yes, I know. It's very slow and boring, but it's the only footage they had. That's it. That's your big jumbo jet.
Mm. Mm.
Most people believe that was a missile of some sort, right?
Mm.
Anyways, I just found it. When I saw the one, I was like, oh, that needs to be a frame by frame comparison. This is what it looks like to see a jet coming in. It's very obvious. The wings are large. There's a tail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Pentagon one was like,
Zip.
and?
Yeah. Zip boom.
So I brought that up because of a concept that I want people to understand. It's this concept of blowback, right? Anytime you take any kind of action, there's always the potential for blowback, right? And what is blowback? Blowback is the boomerang. Blowback is the karma. Blowback is getting back what you put out, right? When you do something and you commit a false flag event or you go instigate a war, eventually there's a blowback. The ledger has to balance the waterbed. You know, if you push down on one side, water's got to go somewhere. That's something that is there. I remember when I was in college learning about 9/11, right? And as a high school student, 9/11 impact, they attacked us for no reason. What did we ever do to them? Well, then you start learning a little bit. It's like, oh, well, maybe we did do a little this and a little that. And maybe we did overthrow their government a little while ago and created a whole lot of problems. And you know what I mean? You start going back. It's like, oh, well, maybe, you know. Now, I take the argument that if you trace the blowback all the way back, you end up at some Cain and Abel situation in a field somewhere in Mesopotamia, right? Like this is just the constant victim oppressor back and forth that we see throughout humanity. But either way, blowback's a real thing. How do you stop blowback?
Well, you don't do the thing in the first place.
Don't do the things in the first place. The other thing you do is radical transparency. Fix the problem so you can be kind of like, hey, listen, yeah, we had a problem. I admit it. It was a problem. I repent. I'm sorry. Let's move on, right? This is the Civil War. Yep, slavery's bad. Okay, we're done with it. Okay, now we're going to go over and we're going to reinforce the no slavery thing, right? Because it was wrong. You see what I'm saying? And we're going to give no quarter to anybody who ever thought it was right. Now, we give quarter to Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. But you get the point, right?
Yeah.
We give no quarter to anyone who holds slaves. So that's blowback. You hold slaves long enough, pretty soon, even the idea of holding slaves, you become the persecuted one, right? So now you've got something like 9/11 and everything after that. What happened in the Middle East after 9/11? It went from a localized problem that was their problem, their religious war, their argument and territory in the sand, to all of a sudden we show up kicking in your door. Why? Because dad went to a jihad meeting. He thought it was a revival gospel meeting. Turns out at that meeting in the back room after dad was there, they were plotting to do something nefarious. And so now dad is getting rounded up. Okay. Now that did happen. Just like with January 6th, we got rounded up, right? Why? Because the horned guy made them look stupid. So they came after everyone, right? That's the whole, what's the blowback now? What's the blowback? So I became aware of blowback. Blowback happens all over the place. It can happen in the business sector, right? If a business does its customers really bad, and then all of a sudden it gets exposed, you could have a huge business and overnight that brand can be toxic and could disappear and go out of business.
You can talk about a Bud Light ad campaign about that topic, you know, blowback.
Blowback. It comes quick. Sometimes it comes slow. Here's another thing that I think is creating blowback. And this is what people need to realize. And I say people, specifically people who consented to this, that allowed this to happen. Right. One of the things you have to look at, and I learned this in the criminal justice system, everybody's rational in their own minds. Everybody thinks that what their actions were justified. Well, you hit me, and so that justified me in cutting your head off. Right. And they're looking at the prosecutor like, what do you mean I did something too bad? It was perfectly appropriate for the moment. Everybody thinks that. Well, when you actually step back and look at something like, for example, the war in the Middle East, it's like, well, America, you went into the Middle East and you killed 1 million people. Well, yeah, but they brought down our towers. Oh no, that actually was a whole separate small group of people that actually were funded by your own government. So why'd you kill a million people? Oh, well, they're bad. You see what I'm saying? Blowback. You're going to get blowback. Well, here's something in the business world that's going to create blowback. And guess what? AI is upon us, and it's going to reveal all the injustices that have been heaped upon you commercially, economically. Here's this. A guy just used Anthropic AI, so just some AI, Claude, which you have to pay a little subscription for, to turn a $195,000 hospital bill into $33,000. Not with a lawyer, not with a hospital admin insider, with a $20 a month Claude subscription plus. Claude plus subscription.
You got to get the plus.
He uploaded the itemized bill. Claude spotted duplicate procedure codes, illegal double billing, and charges that Medicare rules explicitly forbid. Then it helped him write a letter citing every violation. The hospital dropped their demand by 83%. This isn't just a feel-good story. It's a preview of what AI will really do next. Flatten systems built on opacity. Hospitals, insurance companies, legal firms all rely on asymmetry. The trusted science. Don't worry, we looked into it.
Right.
They win because you don't have access to the same data, code books, or language. Claude gave one person the same leverage as a compliance department. That's a revolution. We thought AI would replace jobs. Turns out it's replacing excuses. That is something that is going to create blowback. When people realize this run-of-the-mill hospital bill that you couldn't negotiate, and you run it through AI, and you're like, why? This isn't up for negotiation. You guys are criminals.
Yeah.
There's a difference in that. Right now, you go to the Luigi Mangione thing that happened last year. The justification of killing a United Healthcare executive. Why? In that world, in that little world that justifies that behavior, this is why. That was blowback to this. All the people on the dole that have marked up prices and, all along the way are going to be exposed by things like AI. It's going to level the playing field, right? It's just like the tyrant king gets exposed when everybody owns a revolver, right? Now you got to work with your words. You can't just work with your force. It's the equalizer. AI is an equalizer. Wow. What kind of blowback is that going to create?
That's really incredible.
It's creating blowback right now as we speak. Mondami was just elected mayor of New York. How is that possible? Well, you got some 9/11 blowback going on there for sure, and some self-loathing by certain Democrats who opposed the war the whole time. And now that anti-war sentiment has gone to the point of being sympathizing with, Hamas. You know what I'm saying? Like sympathizing with the true people that oppose our very way of being.
I know, it's wild.
Okay? Yeah, that's blowback. What's blowback from the economic system that I've matured in, right? Since I graduated high school in 2002, I've seen nothing but rising insurance prices, right? I saw that it was totally unaffordable. Let's vote for the guy that will create, central payer, affordable healthcare. We can do this, we the people. And instead, now you're forced to buy private healthcare that sucks. Okay. Yeah. To where now it's like, I can't even afford healthcare. I use a completely different privately funded system because that's a mess. That's a complete and total mess. I have no trust in the banking system. They debanked me, bro. I got debanked. Oh, hey, how's your 401k doing? I don't know. I don't care. Who cares? As far as I'm concerned, that's a whiff in the wind for you. Okay. Like it's gone the moment they decide they need that money and you don't. Why? I've lived that life. I have no trust in that system. Oh, the Department of Justice. Oh, yeah, we want bad guys to go to prison and they always get the bad guys. Do they? Do they? Have you spent any time with some of the bad guys? Are they actually bad? Now, I am not some Mondami, right? Like here's Mondami talking about violence. Let's see here. You got to find the right spot. You've got Mondami who's talking about violence. Where is it? Okay. Oh, I had it.
While you're looking for that or dragging up a new copy, yesterday when we're talking and showing the clip with Elon, and he was like, or maybe it was on Rogan. He's like, the new AI, the future of AI, the AI will tell you what you want to know before you even know it. before you even know to ask. It'll just show you the things that you need to know. And I thought, after a while, I was like, And coupled with this story of the blowback, I'm wondering, is AI eventually going to just expose all the evil just on its own and just start naming people and telling people?
Isn't that the whole story that we as Western civilization Christians tell ourselves? Isn't that the whole story? That any weapon formed against us will eventually be used against you. Genesis chapter 50, what you thought was evil, I will take and use it for my good purpose. Brothers of Joseph, you thought you were, getting rid of Joseph by throwing him in the pit and selling him into slavery. Oh, Joseph, you thought that time in the dungeon was bad for you. Oh, turns out I saved the whole nation for what everybody all along the way was labeling as evil.
Right.
And I turned it into the greatest blessing ever. Right.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. What's going to happen with this?
Absolutely. Yeah. AI created by the elites who want control will be controlled. That's what will happen because it'll be exposed. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And this goes back to, again, you get back into deep historical Christian dogma, but your sins will be shouted from the rooftop. I'm actually
wondering if the Democrats and the people that have been doing ill are starting to come to a realization that the AI is exposing them right now actively, and they're fighting against it.
Well, this is what Peter Thiel talks about. He's like, created it, and now it's like, oh, hey, you have Bitcoin. And then FBI agents say, I'd rather criminals transact in Bitcoin. Why? Because we're watching. That open ledger cuts both ways, doesn't it? And all of a sudden they're like, you know what I mean? Oh, so now, you know what I'm saying? So are you taxing the dollar bill or are you taxing the man? That's the question Bitcoin is forcing governments to ask. Am I taxing the money system, the supply that I create, the actual notes that I printed and want my people to use and back it with law and order and military might to enforce trade routes, et cetera, et cetera? Or does that make sense? Or am I taxing the man no matter what his income is, whether it's in chickens, eggs, Bitcoin, you know what I'm saying?
AKA slaves.
So for me, I'm like, so I'm only a slave if I'm using the company dollar. Okay, well, I don't want to use the company dollar. I'll trade in beans. Oh, no, now we need some of your beans. Whoa. What gives you the authority to tax me? See, these are deep philosophical questions that some people just brush off. Well, everybody pays taxes. No. There's a reason why they're paying the taxes. There's a contractual reason somewhere along the way, right? I'm not just subject to a king, right? Farcical Binks handing swords out from a mythical pond does not a government make, right? Like a consent and a mandate from the masses. And somewhere you had to get my agreement to create the authority to tax me. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, hold on. The closer's not playing yet.
No, we're not playing the closer. It's show's not over, folks. But here's Mandami talking about violence.
Oftentimes, we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling.
So what he's saying is what gets defined as violent crime in the criminal justice system oftentimes has no violence. A porch pirate who goes and steals packages, the criminal complaint that gets filed against him is labeled violent crime because it was committed in a housing area, and any crime committed in a housing area at some point along the line was defined by the city council as violence. A burglary at a retail store where there's allegedly no victims other than the store, right, is considered a violent crime because upstairs there's a housing unit.
So this is a new segment called Mondami, Know Your Laws.
Well, what this is saying is, you know what blowback is, right? Oh, you want to see what violence is. See, this is something I'm sensitive to this, right? You think I committed an insurrection? Well, I'll show you what an insurrection looks like. Oh, you think I committed violence and you're going to make me serve a prison sentence as a, quote, violent felon? Oh, I'll show you what violence is. Do you see what I'm saying? This is blowback. Yeah. This is blowback. So now you've got a leader who's going to redefine violence. And in the act of redefining violence, you become the very thing you hate. And now you're going to have things that are extremely violent that will get labeled nonviolent. Okay.
This is day one.
Creating blowback. This is day one.
Violence is an artificial construction. We have to be very clear what is happening here with these district attorneys. That is violence. That is violence at the highest degree.
He's not wrong. I want people to understand. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump describe the same problems. The cheering and the clapping that you're hearing here, I could give this speech. Passionately. We have different solutions. We have different ways to resolve it. But the blowback is from the problem. This is what politics is. It's taking the problem, getting people to support your proposed solutions. Okay? If you don't fix the problem, election cycle after election cycle after election cycle, eventually sycophants and people who simply will use the problem to gain power will take control. Or what can almost be worse is you get a true believer in there.
Oof.
And that's where we might be today. You've got the intersection of religion, Islam, the intersection of ideology, Marxism, communism, socialism, and collectivism in general, in an environment that is rife with all sorts of corruption, all sorts of, failing problems, all sorts of lying, propaganda, and on and on and on you go. You can't have a criminal justice system that labels nonviolent things as violent, locks up people that are nonviolent offenders, and then labels things that are violent as unviolent, and then have a cashless bail system for it, right? You're creating blowback that's going both directions. That's why in one area you have a MAGA revolution, and in another area you're having this socialist revolution. It's blowback. If you don't address the underlying problems, it becomes kindling. And that's what's going on in New York.
The blowback becomes additional crime, and then that feeds on itself like a fire.
It does. Yes. And keep in mind, right, for all the complaining and all the frustration that we have with the Obama administration, remember, take a look behind the curtain at the George W. Bush administration. I mean, they were torturing people. So all of a sudden, that's not off the table. You think Biden was the first one with a list that had people for neutralization on it? Go listen to Kirkanaku talk about the assassination list that they would approve every week in previous administrations.
Ugh.
Right?
Every week.
Damn. Every week. Now, we are also suffering from a fake news problem, right? Donald Trump put out a truth post saying, hey, there's polls that have me down, but we have polling that show me up. Here's Rachel Maddow trying to spin a narrative. Part of this election thing is getting people to buy into it, right? Because part of the trick of an election, the winner always thinks it was a fair election. The trick of an election worker or a poll worker or someone who's in charge of elections is putting off the perception to the loser that he lost fair and square. Okay. That's the perception, because the loser always is the one who's going to challenge it. You're never going to have the winner go, oh, well,
looks like I got a few extra here.
Exactly. So when you have an odd result, you need to be able to convince the loser that they lost and his supporters that they lost. You need to take the wind out of the sails really fast. This is what Rachel Maddow is doing.
Let's start with the new CNN poll. New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating,
2021.
new CNN poll, it's actually higher. His disapproval rating is higher than it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6th. After January 6th, a whopping 62% of Americans said they disapproved of Trump. Today, the number of Americans who say they disapprove of Donald Trump is not 62%. It is 63%.
Woo.
63% disapprove, only 37% approve of Trump. That means right now he is 26 points underwater in terms of his approval rating with the American people. That's astonishing. Let's start with the new CNN poll.
Yeah, it sounds astonishing.
It sure does.
Now, the last time Trump had that low of an approval rating, right, it was when this was what was being broadcast around the world.
Well, it's the biggest story in town. It turns out
Have a new scandal.
Well, it's the biggest story in town. It turns out American President Donald Trump was
like
onto something.
I can't hear you both. I'm listening to both clips.
We're making an honest effort here.
Story in town. It turns out American President Donald.
Okay. So this right here is coming from GB News, and they're making fun of BBC News because BBC News got caught.
Are they like The Onion?
BBC News?
No, this
GB News? No, it's just a competitive news
so
channel.
they're like CBS.
No. But they got caught on January 6th, kind of destroying my life.
Oh.
Yeah, listen to this. This is the kind of stuff that you get broadcast out there that is the reason why CNN can find enough people to answer questions like, yeah, we disapprove of Trump.
Well, it's the biggest story in town. It turns out American President Donald Trump was onto something.
Where are you from? BBC. Here's another beauty.
It's a good line. Impartial, free and fair.
Sure.
Well, that criticism of the BBC and John Sopel, he was talking to there, apparently was well-founded because the so-called impartial and accurate public service broadcaster is nothing but.
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President...
Because tonight the BBC is facing serious questions over its credibility after the Daily Telegraph exposed a panorama segment that heavily doctored a speech by the American president in 2021, hours before the infamous January the 6th Capitol riot. As you're about to hear, the corporation spliced together two quotes 1 hour apart to make it seem like he encouraged an insurrection.
They played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol. We fight. We fight like hell.
That is damning stuff.
So that is how you manufacture a situation where you get into California, for example, and last night they passed Prop 50. Prop 50 is going to allow them to do all kinds of redistricting. And a lot of people were like, well, why did they do this? I don't, this isn't good for them, because when they poll Californians, it's like 80% of Californians want them to have the bipartisan commission that has to approve redistricting. But Proposition is now going to get rid of that, which means now the supermajority legislature is going to do the redistricting. So goodbye Republican representation in California. Okay, so then they're like, well, hold on. The public wants the commission. They know you guys are biased. Why did you guys vote to get rid of this? So Fox News did some exit polling to find out why people supported Prop 50. And listen to this. Again, this is spinning fake news.
The yes vote in particular with Prop 50. The reason voters said they voted yes on Prop 50, 82% of the case, 8 out of 10 voters say it was to counter the GOP changes, not because they saw it was the best way to draw those district lines. Now, if you go back and look at those who said no to the vote, they said their reasoning to do so is that they saw this as not the best way to draw those district lines, while only 34% said it was to stop the Democrats from adding seats in Congress. A couple other things we're taking away from what voters said there in California. We asked the voters.
Okay, this is where the disconnect is. So they voted along kind of party narrative lines. The Republican, the people who voted against it were like, it's just not the best way. It's kind of a percentage, and the other ones are like, it wasn't as much of a party fervor. Whereas on the other side, it's 72%. We just have to stop the Republicans, even though we believe that the nonpartisan commission is the better way to do this. Wow.
And how they would actually like to see these lines drawn. The irony of this, Trace, is that 9 out of 10 voters, even more so, said they'd like to see this done by a nonpartisan commission, not the party in power. Well, that was preempted with the outcome of this vote.
Blowback. By creating such a party game, right? It's like Republicans sat and went, oh, well, that's a 90-10 issue. Like, it's not going to be a big deal. Nah, no way. You see, again, you do it, I'm going to do it. You're going to have people who in a normal world would never support anything LGBTQ or tranny, and they're going to vote for it just because. You want to see me vote for, you want to tell me what not to do? Watch me do it. Then you've got this here. One of the other challenges with this is you have people who kind of bend down to this. So this is Dana Perino, who by all reports is a good reporter, but in my opinion, she's clearly in that rhino class. Okay. Like very clearly, she's not MAGA by any means. She gets paid to read the teleprompter and do her thing. And she's all in with whatever Fox News is in for. And this is part of the problem is a lot of times what happens is we kind of just act like, oh, it'll work itself out. We're going to have a little experiment with socialism.
But I think it's going to be very difficult from a messaging standpoint. All of the energy is behind Zohran Mamdani. And what I remember something that George Will said, every 20 years or so, people need a controlled experiment in socialism to remind them of why they need adults in charge. And unfortunately, for the city that is not of my birth, but is certainly the one that I adopted and that I love this place. I do hope for the best. I wish him the best and hope that he can love it as much as we do.
But
yeah, we do love this place, but we'll see. It's just cyclical. Yep. Is it really? See, one of the things the Republicans and this election cycle taught them this big time. Winsome Sears, who I find she was very anti-Trump. She was the attorney general in Virginia, and she ran for governor. And Youngkin, right, he kind of came in 2021 and ran on the parental rights thing and then just basically turned his back on him. And then he picked Winsome Sears. She was kind of an attack dog against Trump. They ran an anti-Trump. They ran a, never Trump Republican campaign. Winsome Sears just lost her race by 11 points or something, like 12 points. The Jack Ciattarelli, who Trump endorsed, running for attorney general, lost his race by 1 point. He outperformed the other Republican at the top of the ticket by 10 points with Trump's endorsement. It should be a screaming message to Republicans. You don't have a base. You don't have a base. I just watched our local GOP implode over this Charlie Kirk assassination, right? Imploded. I watched people resign and walk off. Why? Because they're tired of fighting for a party that doesn't fight for them. Watched them walk off, which, by the way, means you need to start coming because the party's ready to be, revamped. This is Richard Barris, the People's Pollster, and he's talking about this exact thing. The Republican Party is dead.
So far this evening.
And I'm listening to you and John talk, and I'm thinking back to election 2024. We knew it was over before anyone called it was over. We were sitting there. We were talking about the coalition. And I said then, and we all discussed it, the number one job for the Republican Party was to convince these voters that they are like Donald Trump and that they will follow Trump's lead, not to convince the voter that they're just going to go back to business as usual and we're going to make Donald Trump's administration and his agenda more like the Republican Party. The Republican Party is filled with losers. They were dead until Donald Trump came along and resurrected them like Lazarus. It was over. They're nothing. They don't have a base. I can't be anymore. Look, I've been screaming for months about this. And then you got clapping seals on one side. You got consultants making millions of dollars on the other side. And I'm telling you, Steve, John just said something 5 points behind Glenn Youngkin in your county, John Solomon, 5 points behind Mayor S. Rand. And that was still remarkable considering how bad the candidate was at the top of the ticket. I've been saying this now for months. I don't care what's going on in Ukraine. I don't care what's going on in Venezuela. I don't care about any of this. These voters were in Virginia dramatically impacted by the shutdown. The MAGA agenda that these people voted for all over the country was designed to make their lives better. Pivot back to the people who voted for you and make their lives better. And maybe you can salvage this before it's too late. That's it. I mean, this is a
Guys,
bloodbath tonight. The House of Delegates is going to be a super majority Democratic House of Delegates by the end of tonight.
Give us that right now. The House Delegates is going to be what?
It'll be a supermajority if this keeps up. Bobby Orrick's about to lose in HD 66, which is unbelievable. HD 71 is already gone. I mean, this is horrible. And people are out there like, these were blue states, New Jersey.
No.
As far as I know, I'm the only pollster who's been polling MAGA since you guys were running it back in 16 and doing something very special. And we also keep these databases of these voters that you guys appeal to. First-time voters, 56 years old. I mean, it's really remarkable. And we're looking at Pennsylvania back then, and it looked a lot like New Jersey after Trump was done with it in 2024. It didn't have to be this blue. All right. This idea like, we were underdogs to begin with. That is a cop out. That is loser speak. End of story. This coalition could have changed the map like the Roosevelt coalition for 30 years. But people want to cling to this old style of fake conservatism, which doesn't conserve anything anyway. What are you conserving? You've been slowly managing the decline of the country for decades. What's left to conserve? Donald Trump and MAGA is about restoration because you already destroyed it.
This is the blowback that the Republican Party, the people at my local meeting that stand up and lead, don't understand. We view you, and I'll speak as Gen 1 millennial, we view you as having run the car into the ditch. Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to win elections. You don't know how to motivate people. You don't know how to identify societal problems. You don't know how to identify and correct systemic corruption. You don't know how to do anything. We view you as empty suits, right? Everything around us. When I hear Bernie Sanders talking about all the problems, I can look in the world around me and see those issues. Mm-hmm. I can see my student loan debt. I can see it. I can see the cost of housing. I can see it. I can see what eggs are. I can see it. I can watch minimum wages rising and high income not. So it's like the lower is getting higher and higher, making the higher income less and less of an income. Mm-hmm. I can see that, right? Donald Trump comes up and he says the problems, and I can see them. For the first time, this is why the forgotten man and women, right? They're being talked to. Yeah, those are the problems I'm seeing out there. Mm-hmm. This is where you people have to recognize there's going to be blowback because these systems were left to atrophy. They weren't responsive to the people. So now the people are going to respond. They decided to run this election with
They're hurting out there. They can't pay their bills. They come out of college thinking they did the right thing with enormous amounts of debt. A socialist was just elected in New York City, not because, the colleges did this, the colleges. I'm so sick. These are all excuses. People were hurting. Cuomo would have beaten him in the primary if these people felt like somebody was addressing their concerns, right? And Donald Trump was it for a lot of these people. I mean, that's what it comes down to. That he was it. And Republicans needed to come to grips with this. We're 10 years into this movement, Steve, and there still are a ton of people who don't understand it's about Trump. And it's about America first.
I think when you really boil it down to it, the problems that Republicans see, they profit from. The old school Republicans. And it's the same thing with the, corruptocrat Democrats. The system that we're like, hey, this healthcare system that allows a $33,000 bill for real services to be amplified to $185,000. That system, it doesn't work. And they're like, well, I got 10,000 of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem, is they benefit from the systems. And so then everything becomes AI if it can't be a tool for control. Eventually, as soon as politicians and people realize the AI is going to expose them, then you're going to see a bunch of AI regulations and laws. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, how long was the revenge? AI in the adult industry has been doing its thing for a while. In fact, that's kind of been where it's gotten a lot of its video advancement. And there's been a lot of lawsuits and complaints, many of them, over the years about people saying, hey, AI can't use my likeness and image to create these inappropriate videos. It wasn't until Taylor Swift had it happen to her that they created all these laws and started banning all the AI videos, right? So it's going on for years. I could be completely injured by it, but as soon as Taylor Swift does it, who, by the way, is not injured by it, her money and income goes up, right?
Yeah.
Boom, it's banned. Same thing here. Yes. As soon as AI, yes. Now AI is going to be the pharmaceutical industry and big medicine is going to be like, no, we don't want to use AI. Our databases are going to be on lockdown. You can't scan them. All right. This is Hassan Piker. Just moments before this interview, Hassan Piker was embracing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is at the Mandami Victory Party. And Hassan Piker was one of these people that really propped up Mandami and, all that kind of stuff. Again, blowback. Okay. So this is a generational blowback. This guy talking could be me, right? Given what I saw early on, Iraq-Iran war, that I could have gone in the opposite direction because you're running from that. And who's the embracing arms? Marxists, communists, et cetera, right? So when you're listening to him, you have to recognize some of the things he's talking about. In fact, you can't say it didn't happen. We did not go to Iraq and kill 1 million people. That happened. Okay. Now, whether you want to justify it or not, there's 1 million dead people who don't think it was justified. Right. So when he says this kind of stuff, he's not wrong. The difference is, again, the solutions. And this is where it gets kind of scary because their intention by taking control of political parts of the United States is not good.
They're done.
What do you think it means? This guy ran into socialism and anti-communism didn't work to stop him. That's it.
Yeah, I think we are in the heart of the imperial core. This is the country that defeated the USSR, unfortunately. And the reality of the matter is there's a lot of antagonism. There's no class consciousness in the United States of America. It's one of the things that I try to address every day with my commentary. And I will say this. The conditions have deteriorated so much that everyday Americans, in spite of their lack of class consciousness, are finally arriving at the conclusion that perhaps there is an alternative out there. There is an alternative that focuses on them as opposed to the interests of the billionaires and the millionaires, as opposed to the interests of the capital owners. And I mean, you can't help but notice that. You can't help but feel at least a little bit of excitement around that.
Okay.
You getting excited, Taylor?
Well, I'm getting nervous because, again, there's a cross-section here. Now, the Hassan Piker, not a Muslim, okay, not a religionist. In fact, I bet if you talk with him, he'll tell you he's an atheist. But he's aligned himself with people who, in my opinion, understanding a little bit about religion and being raised in a religion, this is your base programming, right? Before I was an American, I was a Mormon. Okay? So I understand base programming. This was this last, when was this? This was December 27, 2024. So this is last year at the Friday sermon. So this is just any old Friday sermon at the MAS Youth Center in Brooklyn, okay, by Rajad, whatever his last name is.
As Muslims in America and in the West, especially after September 11, we are seen as a security threat to the empire. And the only way for us to prove our Americanism is to prove that we are loyal to the security forces of this government, of this country. Now, this doesn't mean that we should not be good citizens. This is part of our Islam, to be loyal citizens, but loyal citizens to a healthy society, not loyal citizens to an empire that has invaded Iraq, killing 1 million people, invading Afghanistan, killing thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, and today funding and orchestrating a genocide in Gaza. We can't be loyal to that. If you are loyal to that, then I'm sorry, you're betraying your religion. You're betraying the understanding of the religion that is about justice. We can't be claiming that we are worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so we can please him. But at the same time, or we claim that we want to make this world a better place because that is what we're supposed to do. That's why the Prophet ﷺ expanded the Muslim empire. This is why his companions opened up a lot of countries. And as we know, they opened up these countries not to occupy them. Because as we know in Islamic history, Muslims did not rule in the sense of like the empire, like Western colonial powers. They opened them to create justice and allowed people to deal with themselves the way they see fit. As I mentioned, we want to prove that we are loyal to the empire. But the empire will never be happy with us until we become servants to the empire. Are we loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his message? Or are we loyal to the empire that is destroying the world? And And there's no easy way around it.
So you've got Muslim Mandami with this guy as part of his coalition, Hassan Piker, who just hates America for the sake of hating America, right? Because it's the empire. But these guys have a little bit of a different thing going on here. Well, we would be good, loyal citizens, but not to this. So therefore, in zealotry for our religion, we will fight that empire. It's labeled as evil. Blowback. Right? The fact that he could say 1 million people in the Middle East, that those words came out of his mouth and you can't deny them.
No, not really.
You can justify them, but you can't deny them.
Well, you can try to justify it.
Exactly. You know, my Lord and Savior, rather than call down the legions to fight his battles, said, okay, you know, I don't know. This is Ocasio-Cortez, right? Republicans have been saying, oh, Chuck Schumer's afraid of her and afraid of this movement. You should be. You should be afraid of this movement. But AOC says something intriguing. She goes, it's not that Chuck Schumer's afraid of me. It's Republicans are afraid of me. They project it on me.
Because Republicans are saying that Chuck Schumer is afraid of you. Is he?
I don't think so. I think that, Senator Schumer and I have worked together. I think Republicans are afraid of me. I'll tell you that much. And I think that they project their fear of me onto him. So I think that they're just telling on themselves when they say that.
Just telling on themselves when they say that. There's probably a little bit of truth to that there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. This is okay. Yeah. So this is on CNN last night. They were talking about the Democrat Party essentially being completely taken over by the Democrat Socialists.
The story for tonight is actually that the Socialist Party is taking over the Democrat Party. And you know what? It was Andrew Cuomo. It was Kathy Hochul. It were the Democrats that were so afraid of their shadow, so afraid of the radical left. People like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kept moving to satisfy them. And now they've been eaten alive. So this is a lesson for the Democrat Party. They should have fought for their party. They never fought for their party. They catered to the radical left. And now we're going to see, by the way, for people who think that they're voting for affordability here with Mamdani, a guy who believes in socialism, we're going to learn the hard way in New York City what socialism is. Your taxes will go up. And if you pay property taxes, you won't be able to afford to live in your home. And if you guess what you rent, it's going to be passed on to you in the form of your rent. Yeah. Mandates, fees, regulations, surcharges. We've seen it in this state, in this city under one-party rule for the last decade. It costs money. It gets passed on to you. So if you think you're going to get a free ride with Mamdani, you're going to learn the hard way.
That's why the answer to the
I love Bill de
the story for tonight is actually that the Socialist Party is taking over the Democrats.
He's like, I don't know how it works. Jeez, man. On Fox News Business, they talked about the Mamdani effect. And what's going to happen is the continuing trend that's already been happening. An exodus from New York.
Gentleman on the right-hand side, that is Stephen Moore. Okay, Stephen, Mamdani is likely to win. Trump says he'll restrict federal payments to New York if he does win. So is the city headed towards a grave financial crisis?
Yeah, it's 1975 all over again, isn't it, Stuart? Listen, if you look at the statistics, what has happened to New York, and by the way, New Jersey as well. There are big elections in both of those states. Those are the two of the three states that have lost the most people over the last decade to other states in terms of migration and have lost the most money. So let me give you this statistic. It'll blow you away, Stuart. Over the last decade, New York State, and most of those residents came from left New York City, has lost $500 billion in purchasing power and taxable income. New Jersey, the numbers are not much better, $150 billion lost. My point is that you cannot have New York City as the financial capital of the world as it has been for the last 150 years if they have the highest taxes in the world and the most regulations on that financial capital. I have predicted on your show, and I will say it again because this is election day, if Mamdani wins this election, Wall Street will no longer be located in New York City. You're going to have a Wall Street in Dallas, Texas, or you're going to have a Wall Street in Miami because people won't take it and they will leave.
One of the things that's an underseen thing about this is for people who understand world finance, there's three epicenters of world finance. Or really, I guess you got to throw a fourth in there. There's the Vatican, there's the city of London, there's New York City, and there's Washington, D.C. D.C. is the muscle. Vatican is the cathedral. That's the underlying thought that holds together Western civilization and honoring a contract and good versus evil and what's right or wrong. And then you've got the city of London, which was your original banking. And then you've got New York, which is your corporation head where the stocks are held. So gold's in London, stocks and business ownerships in New York, the military is in DC, and the cathedral and the overriding thought is in Vatican. You now have Islam running London. You now have Islam running New York. This is a global struggle over things that you and I feign to understand and comprehend.
Well, I was going to say that he was spouting out some numbers there that I didn't understand. I didn't know what he was talking about. He's talking about billions and billions of dollars, but
$500 billion
in the context of what?
Of GDP has left New York in the last decade. So
okay, but
Bloomberg
how
and
much
Blasio,
was their GDP? Is that like 10% or 100%?
Oh, I don't, you know what? He didn't say. That's a good question.
Yeah, so I didn't know what those numbers
Don't know what
meant.
the impact is. Yeah, I don't know. Is that like a 1% drop?
Right, I don't know.
I don't know. Now, let's listen to a couple minutes of Zoran's speech here.
Oh, hold on. The other thing, there was one thing that was glaring on that last clip that you played that so far you haven't mentioned and nobody else has talked about. Can we stop talking about polls? The polls are so far off in all these elections. I mean, it was supposed to be 90-10. 90-10. Well, and now, then when you look at the numbers, it's really like a 50-50.
Hold on.
I know.
Those were betting odds. That was the betting market. That wasn't polls.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they use them like they're poll numbers, and they're completely unreliable and worthless.
And everything is viewed from not a position. It's viewed as a point of influence. So can a couple big bets make it look like everything's in his favor? Because then there's the discouragement for the opposition and there's the encouragement. Everybody wants to get on a winning team bandwagon.
I know, but we had this with Hillary. We had this with, what's her name? Harris. And now we're having this with Mondami. And it's the same every time. They're always like, oh yeah, it's in the bag, 90%. And then it's all of a sudden it's like a 50-50. It's like, okay, people.
Well, I knew that in this county that we were going to have a pretty poor election turnout when the day before the election at the GOP meeting, they weren't phone banking. There was no pizza party. There was no camaraderie. It was a routine meeting.
So they weren't doing anything.
I mean, they had a guy tell us to vote for a certain state senator. That's not in my district, so I can't vote for her. Was it? I mean, I was like, this needs.
What a waste of time and air.
Right. This needs to be something fun to do. Anyways, so let's listen to Zoran. This is his speech. And get ready for it.
Okay.
If anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one.
Notice that, how we stop the next one.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Lots of clapping. Sound never comes through when it's clapping.
I'm so glad I can't hear it. You should have a DJ up there going.
We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption.
I gotta say, I helped a lady in the New York courts who leased an office space, a single office room on Fifth Avenue. It was like $4,000 a month or $5,000 a month for just a 200, 300 square foot office space. Okay, during COVID, she got locked out of her building, couldn't use it. Rent still collected. Eventually, she had to stop paying rent. Eventually, her whole business model changed. It ran on Zoom and conference calls, and she didn't need an office anymore. And guess what? So she had to stop paying the lease. Oh, hey, she had a 2-year lease. They slapped her with a $250,000 lawsuit. after they'd locked her out of the building and said, you can't do it for COVID. The contract says acts of God precludes you from the contract. Is COVID not an act of God? No, that's an act of government.
That's an act of Fauci.
That's an act of government. That's what they said. That's not an act of God. That's an act of government.
Oh.
Well, they locked me out. I couldn't use the space, but I still have to pay. Well, you had a lease. So the courts enforced the law. Not only did she get a judgment against her, but then they enforced the judgment and foreclosed on her condo, which is around the corner from Taylor Swift's condo in downtown New York.
Really?
And the friend's apartment. Yeah, took her home to pay for it. So when he says that, he's not wrong. New York has been on the side of the landlords and against the tenants you know what I mean? Especially during this whole COVID thing. You think her experience was unique. 250 grand lost her condo because they locked her out of her office. Okay. So he's not wrong here. There's pissed off people. This is called blowback.
That has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks.
Is the taxation over the people or the money?
Stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know.
We know you've been shipping our jobs overseas, so we need labor protections. These are the same problems Donald Trump is addressing. Same things.
Donald Trump does. When working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed.
This is the elites versus you, the deplorables, the forgotten men and women. It's the same speech.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I don't know.
What that means is he just declared we're an invading force.
Mm-hmm.
There's no assimilation there.
Mm-hmm.
It's built by immigrants. Okay, so you're taking all the credit, so that thereby it justifies you taking.
It sure sounded like we're taking America over.
Yeah, it does what it sounds like.
As I mean, we're taking New York over.
Hey, I'm a grandkid of immigrants. Can't we all be? I mean, I understand. Yeah, we're a nation of immigrants. That's the America way. That's it. Yeah, we're all ultimately immigrants. Some of us are born here, but our parents, somewhere along the line, somebody was an immigrant.
You beat an immigrant.
Yeah. So when he says that, it's like, okay, you know that he's talking about this current wave of immigrants. Mm-hmm. Like,
so hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us.
Oh.
So he won an election, and instead of talking about, the health care and all that stuff, he rallied up the same problems Trump's trying to address, except he threw them back in his face. Okay. And then he said one other thing: we want to prevent other Trumps, because their perspective is Trump is somehow a fascist, this man of peace, right? Now, I want to remind you of in Virginia, they just elected an attorney general. This is now a guy in charge of the law, a guy who can indict you, a guy who can take whatever he wants in front of a grand jury with no adversarial power and tie you up in the courts for who knows how long. And if you are familiar with the Supreme Court decision in 2014, innocence is not a factor in whether you go to jail or not. Okay, so it's pretty stunning. These are the text messages he exchanged referring to the Speaker of the Virginia Assembly. They say nice things about everyone, LOL. Then if those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals. This is Jay talking. I will go to their funerals and piss on their graves and send them awash in something. Jay Jones, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets in the head. That's the Speaker of the House. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people, and he receives both bullets every time. Jay, this is the response from the person. Please stop. LOL. Okay. It really bothers me when you talk about hurting people or wishing death on them. You weren't simply asking questions, and you know it. I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain do they personally move on. Then he goes on, there isn't. I point blank asked you more than 3 times, and that's not to say these things in a text message. And you dug in that you meant it. I honestly am asking a lot today. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer Gilbert are evil and they're breeding little fascists? Yes. We're going to prevent the next Donald Trump, the next little fascist. That's now a guy who just got elected to be in charge of the law in Virginia.
Okay.
This is a problem. Small problem. Okay. So what's happened here, let's go back to Mamdani. This was Van Jones talking about Mamdani. Now, Van Jones was kind of in the Mamdani's going to win. He's, bringing the spirit of the people together. Van Jones whitewashed Mamdani. Van Jones made it so Mamdani was palatable to the Cuomo voter, to the middle voters, okay? But then after the speech last night, I think Van Jones, I actually don't think this because I don't think he thinks very much. Honestly, at this point, you have to wonder if these people think very much, but you wonder if he's starting to think maybe a little buyer's remorse.
I think that's an opportunity. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. And I think that Mamdani is the one you need to hear from tonight. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, can I get on this train with him or not? Is he going to include me? Is he going to be more of a class warrior, even in office? I think he missed a chance tonight to open up and bring more people into the tent. I think his tone was sharp. I think he was using the microphone in a way that he was almost yelling. And that's not the Mamdani that we've seen on TikTok and the great interviews and stuff like that. So I felt like it was a little bit...
it's because you whitewashed him. You whitewashed him. Now the real man shows up. He only ran to fight Trump.
Got some buyer's remorse.
Of a character switch here where the warm, open, embracing guy that's close to working people was not on stage tonight. And there was some other voice on stage. That said, he's very young. And he just...
Are you buying this?
It's very, very difficult. And,
are you buying this at all?
What I'm buying is if we were not in the United States and if we did not have a federal system that diffused power, the fact that Mamdani is not in charge in any way of my life is the only thing that prevents Mamdani from potentially, and again, this is like the most salacious thing I could possibly say, becoming the very thing I hate. They accuse Trump of being Hitler. Well, I'm going to accuse Mamdani of being Pol Pot. He's a man of the people. He's close to the people. This is a different tone. Well, yeah, now that you're in power, on the right, well, he sounded like they just wanted law and order, but Pinochet, he really came after hard to those hippies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Welcome to the party, buddy. This is why our founding fathers were so wise to make it.
My thought was, is there any way that, what's the guy's name? Jones? Is there any way that he didn't know this was going to happen? I mean, come on. You knew this was going to be this. You knew this was his character.
That's the thing. I honestly couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you if Van Jones thinks it or not. Because some of these people, they're really good liars, but it's like there is a real element of some people just don't believe in freedom, right? They don't believe in entrepreneurship. Ayn Rand wrote thousands of pages describing the second-handers, the looters. These are the people that can't invent fire, but they want to use it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. They can't make wealth, but we sure like it. That's the problem with some people is there is an element of people who are really true believers. Mao believed, I don't know if Mao believed, like there are people who are true believers. This was on...
I know, but when this guy had this platform that's basically a Communist Party platform, why didn't people believe him? I mean...
People believe in communism.
My gosh,
no,
you just can't.
You can't. Cubans hate communism because they've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
Capitalists hate capitalism because they've lived it. Have you ever paid a medical bill that was marked up $150,000? Have you ever done that? Because that's capitalism for you. I started out the show showing AI might be an open door, but without AI...
I don't want to answer that question, but only because, it touches too close to my life. But My answer to that one is yeah. I have paid a bill that was bloated.
So yes. So this is what until you can address that problem, don't tell me communism doesn't work, because neither does capitalism.
So I will divulge this. So we had recently a trip to the hospital. It was the hospital billed our insurance $130,000. The insurance paid out 33. There you go.
And you're left with the delta?
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't really want to talk about that question.
Because it's painful. Welcome to end stage capitalism, right? This is like in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, don't people know communism doesn't work? Well, they're looking at you going, don't you know capitalism doesn't work? Why are you not rich? Haven't you worked 40 hours a week for the last 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
How are you not ahead? How is your life not even marginally different? Oh, you live in a different house. Oh, you pay rent to the bank instead of to an apartment complex. Great. Good for you. Good luck. But you don't own anything.
Maybe that's why I have, tinges of depression now and then, and anxiety and other problems like that, because
I remember getting into prison, and on day one, they're like, if you're having thoughts of self-harm or depression, it's mental illness and we can give you medication. And I'm thinking,
that's not what it is.
It's a disease of the mind. I'm like, no, it's a complete normal, logical reaction to being incarcerated.
Exactly.
Like, you're asking a guy who's at the beginning of a 7-year stay if he's a little depressed. F you if I'm not. If I'm not depressed, you should put me in the psych ward.
You know what else will do the same thing? Watching 30 years of CBS.
Yes. Yeah, because if we're talking about the same problems, we never fix them.
Yeah.
Housing affordability. You guys have been running on that since the Great Society of Johnson. You know what I mean? At some point, we're just going to say scrap it and fix. That was the conservative evangelical Christians world. Trump was just do whatever, just break whatever you got to get, just restore some common sense, and here on the left, it's the same thing. Bernie, do whatever you've got. Listen, you can't be worse than the current pharmaceutical companies. You couldn't be worse than this, right? Even if that's the problem. If you can't look at it squarely and see that these are real problems, what impacts me? The price of eggs. What impacts me? My doctor's bill. You know what doesn't impact me? What the heck's going on in Ukraine? You know what I mean? You know what doesn't impact me? Who knows, whatever, drama of the day. But until you address these real problems, and this is where Republicans have been feckless, because clearly they're profiting from the system. Clearly, somehow, Republicans and Democrats alike, because now MAGA and the Democrat Socialists of America, these are the two parties.
I bet you right now, if you polled 100 people on the street about Ukraine, nobody could even tell you what's happening.
No. Nobody could tell you what's happening. In fact, one of the big criticisms...
It just hasn't been in the news.
You know what Russia's telling their people? What their propaganda is saying right now? So Trump campaigns on getting out of Ukraine, and everybody thinks he's a little pro-Russian, and they were looking forward to him winning. They didn't help him win the election, right? Because he might do something about it, right? They didn't view Ukraine as a good actor in this. Ukraine is corrupt as all possible to get out. Like, you cannot... It's very difficult not to take Russia's side in this conflict, okay? Now, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying, when you lay it out, I'm not necessarily saying Ukraine's the one with the claim. You know what I'm saying? So Trump gets in now, and of course, Russia lays out their logic, and Trump goes, that works, but Ukraine won't play ball. They won't back off because Ukraine's in the wrong. And by the way, he's now like the 9th largest landowner in the United States. He just bought that huge ranch system in Wyoming. He owns like 700,000 acres now in Wyoming.
Who is?
Zelensky.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good for him.
He's now the 9th largest landowner in America. I don't know where he got the money. Last I saw him on TV, he was playing a piano with his dick. So, but somehow he turned that into an $89 billion land purchase in America. I don't know where the money came from. I don't know. I mean, maybe YouTube's paying out a lot on those viral clips. I have no idea, Ron. Until you address that stuff, don't tell me capitalism's great. Do I believe in capitalism? Of course. But you're not running capitalism. You're running cronyism. So now the allegation in Russia is, you know what Trump's doing now? He's profiting off Ukraine, which, he's monetized it. He's made it so we make money. We're going to fight. At least you're going to have to buy your stuff. We're not going to give it to you. Okay, so maybe eventually that bankrupts Ukraine and they can stop fighting. But that's what Russia's saying now is like, look, now Trump's profiting. He's never going to end this war. Now he's making money because in a capitalist system, that's the hitch. It's the money. Okay. This is Hogan Gidley talking about now in Virginia, we officially have someone who, wrote those text messages I read you as the chief law enforcement officer.
51% of the people in Virginia just said they want someone to be their attorney general, the top law enforcement official, who said he wanted the Speaker of the House in Virginia to be murdered and Republican children to be murdered. Let that sink in about just how dark of a landscape that paints.
That happened. What? Right? I mean, you can go, well, that didn't really happen. No, that happened. I just read you the text messages. He doubled, tripled down, even when he was confronted by it, by whoever his confidant that he was texting. And that person's now in charge of the law in Virginia.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's kind of like our superintendent of public education who says racism is baked into the Constitution and we'll take advantage of COVID in order to undo it and teach something different.
Is that Scott Rakedahl?
Yes. Yeah.
The revolution.
By the way, back in season 1, I pulled that up, a full hour-long speech he gave on COVID. I didn't see it clipped anywhere. It was the first 2 minutes of his speech. He said that. And I played that on the podcast. I think we were doing it together at the time. I played it on the podcast. I probably got 25 people that reached out to me who wanted that clip to show to someone. It was disbelievable. And that's sometimes what happens is until you're really confronted with it. Like Reichdahl, he's a white guy. He's like our neighbors, always a little left, whatever. Yeah. No, that guy doesn't believe in the Constitution. So you think you elected him and he went and took an oath, but that's okay. He'll protect my individual rights. No, he won't.
No, he will not.
No, he won't. It's just like electing a Muslim who has previously pledged to the intifada, jihad, whatever, who then comes into politics, and you can read in their book, they say, pledge here, go run for politics, take it over, apply Sharia. Am I supposed to believe the opposite of what's going on here?
The revolution is complete. Political violence is acceptable among the Democrat Party. And this election of Jay Jones is proof of that. And this election also comes on the heels of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Right. And in the days after that, we saw so many people waking up in that moment to the Democrats' reaction to the assassination. That really turns people off. But then where were they in this turnout? The revolution is complete.
Where were they? I thought the revolution was going to be podcasted. Apparently it's going different ways. All right, we're about to jump over into private. We got to rack up some private hours. May as well. Hey, how's the comments going? Have we been streaming decently, or has it been like rough cut here? Just curious.
Shoot, I don't mean.
Yeah, where are the comments? None.
Oh, no.
What's happening?
There we go.
Oh, there you are. Video keeps looping back. We'll have to watch replay. God bless both persons. Oh, so our other cat videos. Other than cat. Yeah, we have a lot of listeners on X right now. I wonder if X is coming through clear.
I don't
know. Connected. Well, great. All right. Last video before we jump into the private. This is democracy for you.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Oh, that's the best.
All right. We're jumping over into the private. We got more. We've got John Solomon assessing what the GOP, and John Solomon, he's political, whatever, not political, allegedly, but what the GOP needs to do to reconstitute its base. We're going to hear a little bit more about the collapsing goods economy right now in the United States. Big deal. They're down 30%, stunning. And we're going to hear a little bit from Ron DeSantis, and we're going to talk about gold and some money stuff. So join us in the private on Rumble. Hate to see our big numbers drop on X, but we'll see you guys later. This entire episode will be uploaded, including what we say on private, into Rumble later today. I don't know when. So please, if you couldn't watch it all the way, jump back in, watch it. Probably aren't even hearing my voice, but you'll jump back in there.
You'll figure it out.
It'll all be there, and we'll get the audio. We're working on our stuff. Okay, thank you.
There we go.
All right. So this is John Solomon basically saying, listen, the Republicans got to get their act together, and they got to start using their greatest political tool ever, Trump.
There's a lesson to learn in Jason Mowry's. He leaned into Donald Trump, not away from him. Republicans have to stop leaning away from the leader of their party and the leading message that wins their party there, or wins that popularity among the masses in America. And then the other is Mamdani. Whatever you want to say about Mamdani's radicalism, he did three things. He got new people to the poll in gigantic numbers, just like Donald Trump did last year. He stayed focused on the economy and making America affordable again. That's what the Trump team and the Congress needs to be focused on. And three, he remained consistent. He didn't flip-flop. He didn't listen to consultants. He went with his instinct, and he came off as authentic. Even if it's crazy authentic, he's authentic. So you learn in Mamdani's victory and in Jason Mayer's significant overperformance compared to any other Republican tonight, some really valuable lessons if you're a Republican. The question I have is, will they listen? Will this be a wake-up call, or will they yawn and move on? Big things are on the horizon. Tomorrow, the Supreme Court's going to hear the tariff case. That's a historic case that could change things. The Louisiana apportionment case will be big. I thought Joel Pollack made out a good point. Will the 14th Amendment be used by the Justice Department to invalidate some of the redistricting pushes? Tonight, the Republicans lost a chance to reclaim the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They didn't work hard enough, just like they didn't work hard enough in April with the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Those courts are going to decide a lot of the electoral issues in 28. How many more courts are going to flip between now and 28? Those are all questions that someone that's the chief political strategist for the president has to answer quickly and get back to what the winning strategy was. Tonight is so different than 1 year ago tonight because the strategy that the Republican Party pursued was so radically different and so radically underwhelming. And by the way, the Democrats got back to what they're good at, street politics. That's what they're good at. That's what Barack Obama was, a street organizer. So Democrats are going to keep doing this. This is how they win elections. They get out the vote. Republicans have to get back to that machine and get back to the economic populism that got them to where they were last November 5th.
Yeah. I think the thing I see there, they tried to air game Kamala Harris, and it kind of threw the entire, the Democrat base. Imagine being on the ground and 100 days out from the election, we're like, it's not Biden anymore. Yeah, rip down the signs, go replace all the posters. It was like very disheveled. They're back organized. And unfortunately, we still got the same problems. Right. The Republicans, for whatever reason, this cycle just completely decided to ignore Trump. I've been at a loss in our local GOP. I think it's getting time for me to probably exert some influence. Okay, this is Ron DeSantis, and this is another thing to consider too. And not saying I'm necessarily against this. You got to vote with your feet. But one of the problems in some of these states is an actual drain of actual Republican voters.
Well, first of all, Jack would have won 4 years ago, and he would have won tonight if you just take all the Republicans who've left New Jersey since I've been governor and moved to Florida. If they could have still voted in New Jersey, he would have won both of those races. Same thing with New York City. Maybe not a Republican, but, Giuliani would not be able to win with this electorate the way it is now. Because what happens, Sean, is a leftist politician gets in, whether it's destroying a state like California, Illinois, New York, whether it's a city like New York City or Chicago. And the people that it tends to drive off are the center-right voters. And so when they leave, the resulting electorate is actually more liberal. That's how you go from Lori Lightfoot to Brandon Johnson in Chicago, which is digging the hole deeper. That's why you've gone from 8 years at de Blasio, now leapfrogging here 4, to have Mamdani, who's even going to be worse. And what we found in Florida is, first of all, we're not asking for anyone to move. I mean, people have talked about putting a tariff on people moving in at this point because so many have done so. And I know a lot of people in Florida would think that would be necessary. But here's just the truth. If you look at all 49 other states since I've been governor and look at who's migrated to Florida, all 49 more Republicans have moved to Florida than Democrats. Vermont, New York, Illinois, you name it. And the result of that is not just migration, because we've had a lot of people shift within Florida. But when I got elected, we had 300,000 more registered Democrats in Florida. Today, we have 1.4 million more Republicans.
That's part of it, too.
And so it's not really a sea level rise. It's more like Florida sinking into the ocean.
What do you mean?
Just from all the weight of the new people.
The weight of the people, yeah. Sinking, not rising. But that is something too. Like, and that has to be a reality that people have to consider. Do you really want to live in a state where the governor wants the Republican kids dead? Or the attorney general?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you do have to sit back and, we're peasants, and unfortunately that's part of the challenge is we have to live here, and we're oftentimes tied to the land. We have family ties. We have a community that we're invested in. We have roots. It's hard to uproot a tree, especially a big one, right? But do you really want to stand in the path of the lumberjack? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the problem. You're scheduled for the clear cut. For the private property consolidation phase of the economic cycle. You know what I mean? Like, do you really want to be in the place where the collectivists are here to take? Yeah, it's tough. At what point is it a good idea to get out of East Berlin? I guess if you just stay long enough, it'll fix itself.
Yeah.
And that is the other lesson too. A lot of conservatives you didn't have to leave East Berlin. You could have just waited another decade. You know what I mean? Sure. I mean, what's 40 years behind the wall? The wall eventually comes down. Yeah, I guess if you don't have a death sentence, they will eventually let you out of prison. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't mean it's comforting in any way.
Well, that wall coming down was never a certainty.
No. And that's the thing. Now, again, real problems. This is a real problem. What does a looming freight recession mean?
Well, we should be worried. The goods economy, certain portions of the goods economy are collapsing right now. So year over year, trucking volumes, this is really the predominance of freight that moves across the United States, is down 17%. It's important to unpack exactly what we're talking about is the retail freight, freight tied to the trucking market, which is really local distribution, is actually flat. So it's not seeing deterioration. It's probably why the Federal Reserve isn't overly concerned, because the consumer is staying pretty persistent. You see it in a lot of the retail earnings. But when you look at the industrial sectors, the folks are the freight that moves over the long haul. This is energy, automotive, housing, and manufacturing. We're down 30% year over year, which is very great financial crisis levels of concern.
Great financial crisis levels of concern.
Yeah.
So we have a problem.
So I guess we know where the illegals are getting their driving jobs. And also, though, they are taking a hit because there's just less lumber and building products moving around because there's less building happening.
Here's what I don't like from this. This doesn't tell me anything.
I know.
Because literally, like, for example,
it's just forcing us to guess.
Well, there was the one trucking company that had, I don't know, what was it? It was 120 trucks in their yard or something. We covered it a couple weeks ago. And the DOT came in there and they shut it all down. Right. The whole thing, gone. Can't drive. So all those trucking contracts went unfulfilled.
Right.
Until they resourced a trucking company.
Right.
So
that could be part of a percentage point.
Like,
right
is it
there.
possible they pulled 1,500 drivers off the road and that's affecting these orders? And
yes,
you know what I mean? Or is this a demand thing? Or is this a supply thing? Are things not making it across the ocean to be delivered?
Yeah. That's kind of what I was trying to say with my comment. Some of it is illegals, some of it is less, product being moved for whatever reason, and we're just guessing.
Yeah, I don't know. There's too many variables. Now, we're going to listen to this. I listened to this entire podcast yesterday, Ron. I'm going to send it to you. You have to listen to it.
Okay.
This one is like, you need to listen to this podcast.
Okay.
But this guy's talking about, these are crypto guys. This is a crypto podcast, and they're having some financial planner on here. Very smart. Listen to the whole thing. He's legit. So they're asking him about foreign central bank reserves have, for the first time, there's more money being held, the first time since 30 years, there's more money being held in gold and reserves around the world than in treasuries. Okay. So what does this mean?
1995, gold was dominant, but then between 1995 and 2025, so 30 years, treasuries were the dominant reserve asset inside of central banks. And that, as of just this month, has flipped. So gold is now the dominant reserve asset in foreign central bank reserves instead of U.S. treasuries. And I think this kind of goes to your point. It's just like, is this a trade? Is this the debasement trade? Or is this just debasement? Just remove trade. Is this kind of like a before after moment? Like in 2025, gold flipped U.S. treasuries and foreign reserves. Is this like when we look forward, when we go forward in time, 5, 10, 20 years, we'll look back on this year when gold flipped treasuries and kind of understand it. Like this is kind of when world powers re-equalized. There's a new equilibrium. What would you say is the significance of this moment?
I think it is possibly hugely significant. I think it depends on events and two events in particular, right? So if we think the United States is going to change its mind and suddenly say, you know what, we're okay with having China make more and more of the critical components of our military. Let's just go back to the way things were. Then that chart, in theory, could reverse. If, the second question, are China and Russia going to say, you know what? We think the U.S. was just kidding about trying to choke us out, trying to break us up, trying to tip us over, trying to regime change us. We actually think that we want to go back to the way things were. And so we are going to start stockpiling treasuries at real rates that are wildly negative. So basically, the Americans will be stealing our real wealth by us buying treasuries at negative real rates. And we're going to replace our leaders with Yeltsin-like, Boris Yeltsin-like leaders who basically position our countries as economic vassals to the Americans and proceed to sell off the wealth and companies of our country to pennies on the dollar to U.S. Western interests. If the answer to either of those questions is no, let alone both, then that chart, I think, is monumental, because I think it is telling you what is happening, which is there's no chance the Chinese and Russians are going to say that. And there's no chance the U.S. military, especially after this last year, is going to go, you know what, it's a good idea. Let's finish sole sourcing. We're already too heavily sourced to China. Let's sole source to China for all the stuff, all the weapons that we want to use to point at China. So neither of those, in my opinion, the odds of either of those things happening is zero or very close to it. And if that's the case, then we're going to see gold continue to rise in reserves as a share of treasuries.
It's just de facto, it's baked in. And then he goes on to talk about this. This is really interesting.
I know we don't have a lot of people watching now, but can you repackage that just for me? I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about.
He's saying, right, so in the after
let me tell you what my takeaway from that chart was. My takeaway from that chart is that the world is no longer going to have confidence in the US dollar. That's what my takeaway was.
Yes. So what happened?
How does that feather in with what he was talking about? I didn't understand what he was talking about.
Prior to the fall of the Berlin Wall, everybody's on a fiat system. But the central banks hold reserves. They've got the gold, right? So they're kind of lending out of these gold houses. They're hypothecating and fractional reserving to death. But nonetheless, there's gold reserves.
But it's gold backed.
It's gold backed. And so you had the Soviets holding gold. You had the Americans holding gold. Well, then the Americans' economy was strong enough because the money's moving. Nobody's redeeming their gold. We prevented it by law. Nobody's redeeming their gold. And so the economy's growing. We're able to use these inflated dollars to buy missiles, tanks, and planes because they spend, right? Enforced by law. So the Berlin Wall collapses because they're doing the same thing, but there's not the confidence in the system. Why? Because the system's corrupt. The American system in the 1980s looked strong under Reagan. You know, there was a perception that it wasn't as corrupt, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Well, then the Berlin Wall falls, and so now the whole world is like, hey, there's no Soviet bloc anymore. So now it's free trade galore. Like every country is out on their own. Ukraine's striking deals and everybody's striking deals, and they're all having to buy energy, which has to be bought in dollars. So they're taking the gold out of their central bank vaults and they're buying treasury notes in order to buy energy. So They dump their gold reserves to the private market, to sheiks in the Middle East, to London, to DC, wherever, and they get treasury dollars. Well, now Russia and China have built themselves up quite enough, and they're like, hey, we can enforce people using our own currencies. We don't have to use American currencies anymore. Let's buy our gold back. Let's take these treasury notes we've got and let's go buy gold with it. And now there's more reserves being held around the world in gold, which means the dollar doesn't have the power it had when you're going nation to nation anymore.
Right. So that's what I was just saying. What was he saying? He was talking about us buying our weapons from China and having them be our sole source.
So he's saying basically, because China no longer wants treasuries, we can't buy rare earths with them with dollars. We have to give them gold.
Okay.
Do we want to deplete our gold stores? Because eventually you'll have no gold left, and then they'll go, yeah, we don't like those dollars at all. Does that make sense? So we're not gonna allow that to happen. We're not gonna allow, so we actually want gold to go up because we need to overvalue our gold. You know what America's gold is valued at in our reserves? $42 an ounce. Because once Nixon came off the gold standard, they never revalued it in the reserves because they wanted to discourage anybody in the world from buying it. They wanted to depress the price. So to this day, on America's balance sheet, our gold reserves are valued at $42.
Okay.
Okay. So China's like, oh, $42, we'll buy it. $100, we'll buy it. $1,000, we'll buy it. $3,000, we'll buy it. $4,000, we'll buy all we want, because we know historically gold is zero. See, all of your fiat currencies are trending to infinity to an ounce. So we'll buy it at any price because we know once we have enough of it, the majority, now we get to enforce the values against it. That's what's happened. Just like you said, it's $42 an ounce. Period. For a long time. Or, you know what I mean? Now, when we have enough of it, we enforce it. And China, unlike America, has encouraged people to buy gold. In fact, as of this moment right now, you can take your Chinese yuan down to a Chinese bank and they will give you a Chinese yuan that's infused with gold, like a golden bill.
Wow.
Okay? They want gold all over their nation because they don't believe in private property. So they're just by spreading it everywhere. They can come get it whenever they
have
want.
a little touch.
I'm sure all those dollar bills have an RFID chip in it where they can it's in that, you know what I mean? So they're spreading it all over. So that's what he's saying here. So this could be monumental because gold is power.
Okay.
Right. And so then there's a competition between gold and Bitcoin now.
So we are talking about the same thing, just different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we be alarmed at the aggressive price action of gold on the year? And maybe if you have gold, you're not alarmed. So who should be alarmed by this if someone should be alarmed?
Depends which side of the American fence you're on and what side of the world economic fence you're on. Look, if you are part of the American fence where you want to go back to those grand old days of the late 90s and early 2000s where treasuries were the reserve asset and we were offshoring our industrial base as fast as we could to China and, basically American policy economically was do whatever, subjugate the working and middle classes of America and subjugate the defense industrial base to China in order to support the bond market and Wall Street and Washington deficits. Yeah, if you think that was a good thing, if you liked that outcome, if that was good for your paycheck, yeah, you're very alarmed about what gold's doing. I would put Andrew Ross Sorkin into that camp. Now, if you are of the view that
so
you
if
want the defense industrial base to come back, you want
the way things have been going, you've been making money, you want it to continue.
Yeah.
But if I'm down on the ground and I'm going, well, the way things are going is $5 gallons of milk, $5 gallons of gas, bachelor's degrees that cost $150,000, 30,000 medical bills that cost $180,000. So if I'm on the ground, am I very committed to the way things are?
No,
not at all. Right. So rising gold prices, does that bother me as a peasant? It shouldn't, but it does because I don't know that I can buy gold.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's going to compound the problems. The solution is going to make it hurt more until it's fixed one way or the other.
This country, you want to inflate away our debt to put us on a sustainable competitive footing with China because we went way too far with that past monetary regime, then you're rooting for gold to go higher. And that's the camp I'm in. And I think it's the camp most Americans should be in, most of the world should be in. And it's definitely the camp that the BRICS are in. Actually, what China and Russia are doing with gold, they're literally trying to do us a favor.
Trying to do us a favor. And a lot of this, again, why are they trying to do us a favor? Here's why. Because in our own demise is our own healing. And here's a possibility.
Should we be alarmed at the aggressive price action of gold on the year?
Play the same
and
again.
Maybe if you have gold, you're not alarmed. So who should be alarmed by this?
I just played the same clip again. Let me get the right clip here. Oh, here we go.
Mechanically, you can find this in the Financial Accounting Manual for Federal Reserve Banks. It's a public document online, section 2.10. Treasury can call the Fed and say, revalue the gold. It mechanically creates a deposit right into the Treasury General Account, or TGA. It's literally money creation using the gold. The Besson can do pretty much whatever he wants with. At 10,000, it's $2.5 trillion. At 20,000, it's $5 trillion. $5 trillion, you could buy back a lot of the Treasury market. You could buy back, put it this way, you could buy back the entire long end at $5 trillion, all of it. And so paradoxically, most people would say, oh, if gold's at 20,000, there's no bid for Treasuries. It wouldn't need to be. He could buy the entire long end. Treasury yields would go down. 10-year Treasury yields would go down in that case, not up. Would it be inflationary? Eventually. Is that what we need? Yeah. If we wanted, again, we can either win and bring back our defense industrial base, or we can have low inflation and a bond market that, that requires China and all the two preconditions. We can't do both. Inflation's in the cake. So that's why I think they haven't. That's what I think they are. I think they're eventually going to do that. I think part of it was, hey, let's try the Doge thing first, right? Because realpolitik is there's a bunch of people who thought they could Doge, like serious people. To me, it was like, guys, look at the math. This is like third grade math. Like, come on. But some very serious people were like, oh, yeah, they can Doge, and that's how we'll get out of this. I'm like, okay, well, have at it, right? And it was like, oh, we can't Doge. Like, oh, really? That's a surprise. Huh, interesting. So I think there were some political things they had to try first. But again, the debt doesn't care. The interest grows no matter what. Every day that goes on makes it more likely that this doesn't end in sort of a smooth sort of shift from icon to sand, but rather the big boulder running after us after we misjudge the amount of sand relative to the icon.
What he's talking about, they used the Indiana Jones analogy. Can we just, can we swap out gold for, can we, and he's like, no, what's going to happen is you're going to realize you didn't have enough sand in the bag and the boulder's going to release.
I see.
And part of this, and he explains, again,
mechanically, you can,
this whole podcast, it's really good. Part of this is he explains America's become victim of its own success. Little buffering. That's okay. We're using up our private stream time, which is great. Because
this is down to me and you.
At the end of the month, you guys are going to get so much free stuff, so much free views.
You're sounding like Mondami.
Free. It's free for everyone. Free information for all.
Free ponies for everybody.
Yeah, free ponies.
Dollar system that with the dollar system that these people leave out is it's become a victim of its own success. There is no threat to kick your head in anymore, because guess who makes all the weapons that we're going to use to kick your head in? China. China makes critical components of the weapons we're going to use. And why is that the case? Because of the dollar system. We literally, there is the only place there's still a threat that we're going to come kick your head in is on Western Wall Street investors. In the real world, U.S. policymakers, U.S. military people, U.S. military strategists, the Chinese, the Russians, they all know. The U.S. ran through 15% of its high-end air defense missiles in 11 days of medium combat in June, helping defend Israel. What do we got? A month, 2 months, 3 months? And oh, by the way, these missiles take years to replenish. Everybody knows this. And oh, by the way, China makes critical components in these missiles across services, like a startlingly high percentage of these missiles. So like literally, if China should, and how, I knew this ahead of time. When you look at how the American administration has reacted to the shutdown of military grade rare earths, have you ever seen the American administration react this way to anything? Anything. Why? They're acting like an addict who just had his supply cut off. You ever try to take booze away from an alcoholic? It's the same reaction. The American dollar system has gone too far. It has become a weapon against America. Why would I be in favor of a weapon against America? Why would anyone be in favor of a dollar system that has left American national security in a position where we literally, everyone knows we can't do it for any extended period of time. Everyone knows the Russians can last longer. The head of NATO came out earlier this year, said the Russians outproduced all of NATO 4-1. Everyone knows China, like everyone but a certain class of, Western and U.S. investors who start with the first principle of China can't win. America always wins. America hasn't won this one, guys. Like, wake up. And I don't say that to you. I say that to these consensus guys. But that's why I think it's, why would anyone want gold? Well, if you're in favor of America not being beholden to China to make weapons, and if you're in favor of rebalancing trade in the way that we've been trying to get the Chinese to rebalance trade for 10 years with no success, then you should be in favor of this. And if not, then I would question where your loyalties lie. The
Interesting. All right, guys, that's it for us today. We are going to wrap it up and work on our internet issues. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.